Hours of service is huge because it's double weighted, and it's got so many petty violations that can easily add up because they're double weighted. Say it's not a false log. Say it's just something as simple as I don't have my ELD manual.
Welcome to This Week in Trucking. My name is Caroline. Compliance can get easily overlooked. The quickest way to lose money in this industry is to get an out-of-service order from the DOT. And if you're not careful, too many dings on your safety records can lead to insurance being unaffordable or just completely inaccessible. So today we're talking to Rob Carpenter, VP of Compliance at TruckSafe. What are the most common compliance mistakes that you see small fleet owners and owner-operators making?
I think a lot of it starts at the framework of your whole program. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily like root level issues to start. The whole thing a lot of times is just bad because they don't have the information they need to get started. You don't have a new entrant audit generally until the first 18 months, right?
Right.
So if you operate for 12 months and then they come in at 12 months and are like, hey, it's more of an educational compliance review. We're going to kind of teach you something. Dude, I've been operating for 12 months this way. So part of it is the ignorance factor, just not knowing. I think people look at ignorance like it's a bad word. It's just you don't know what you don't know. And one of the attorneys I work with at TruckSafe, Tyler Biddle, and one of the pieces that he focuses on is contracts for owner-operators and people that are coming from the driver's seat and how to review these contracts, whether you're leasing on with a carrier, and the common pitfalls that we as drivers make, not knowing, or a lot of times not necessarily not knowing, but just not reading the contract before you sign it. So there's so many things that go into going from the driver's seat to running and owning a company that I think a lot of us miss. From the driver's seat, especially if you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Oh, I'm running for this truck and this guy's making $6,000 a week off me. All I got to do is get my own truck and I'll make the $6,000 a week for myself. Nobody looks at how cash flow intensive the business is and how much you might net, maybe nothing. So all of our stories are usually, heartbreaks. And some of them are worse than others. A lot of people coming from the driver's seat don't realize that a history of noncompliance can put you not just out of service for the instant, but can put you unsatisfactory, which means you can't operate at all. And so many truck drivers miss those pieces of it. Just there's some one and done violations where you can lose your CDL immediately for one violation. If you're hauling hazmat and you don't stop at a rail crossing, that's an immediate 60-day suspension if you're convicted. So a lot of people don't look at these one and dones and realize that, oh, they can actually put me completely out, whether it's as an imminent hazard or whether it's as an unsat rating. They can close your business. And some of those are the most heartbreaking instances. We just did one in Indiana. And when these happen, you have to come to people like us. You can do it yourself. It's going to take longer. But if you come to us, we can file your safety management plan and your upgrade request with FMCSA and try to get that unsat at least to an unrated. You might not get to satisfactory. You're probably going to get to conditional or unrated, but it'll at least get your doors back open again.
So what can carriers do to avoid getting to that stage so late in the game? Let's say I'm in a better, I don't have a great compliance program, but at least I haven't been given that unsatisfactory rating. How can I avoid that unsatisfactory rating?
You kind of see that your record is getting funny, right? And you realize that you're being pulled over more. And it's kind of this vicious cycle because the more violations you get, the worse your ISS score gets and the more times you get pulled over. So it's imperative that people have good workflows, good systems, good processes in place from the beginning. And if they don't know what they are, then they need to call somebody that does. So whether that's TruckSafe, Fleetworthy, or another consultant, that it can actually say, hey, we help you by doing the following things. And it's good to have that anyway, because when they come for their new entrant, they're going to want to see that you have foundations in place to manage a good program. If you don't, you're not going to manage a good program. So that's essentially all you can do is just run as compliant of a system as you can.
Cool. And for people who are just thinking about entering this business, starting a trucking business, can you talk a little bit, give us a quick rundown of the 7 basics, what that means, and what are some of the more common areas where you see violations?
So the big ones are maintenance. And part of the reason is there's so much that's consolidated under maintenance. Maintenance isn't just your tires and your lights, but it's also load securement issues fall under maintenance category, which is a huge problem. Mm-hmm. So all of those things fall under maintenance, and a lot of people just don't maintain their trucks. Again, all of these have their own thresholds, and every threshold is different. And hours of service is huge because it's double weighted. And it's got so many petty violations that can easily add up because they're double weighted. Say it's not a false log. Say it's just something as simple as I don't have my ELD manual. That can be a high
Wow.
point value violation just because you weren't organized. So drug and alcohol, maintenance, hours of service, crash, hazmat, driver fitness, and unsafe driving. So unsafe driving is a huge problem because that's usually like the gateway drug, right? So they don't necessarily know that your ELD is bad. They don't know that you don't have one. They don't know that your log is false. If you go by them and they see that your truck is either not well maintained or you're going 10 over the speed limit, like that maintenance issue that's so obvious, or that behavior is so obvious, that they pull you over and then they get you for a lot of other things. A lot of the advice I give for this international road check that happens every year, it's clean your truck. Just wash your truck and make sure it's spotless. Because if I'm an FMCSA, if I'm in commercial enforcement, whether it's a state partner or DOT, and you come through and you have a spotless, chrome shined, brand new Peterbilt that's going to Matt's, and then I have a log truck pull up next to me that's caked with mud, tires are half bald, I'm going to go where I feel my time is best spent. Where am I going to get the most violations? Probably not from that Peterbilt guy. He's clean. Now, that's not necessarily true if you have a high ISS score. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand. What is an ISS score? So ISS scores are 0 to 100. The closer you are to 0, the less likely you are to get pulled over. When they run your DOT, you're going to get a score. When you go through the scale, they're going to see your score. So if your score is a 98, you have to get pulled in. So 75 to 100 is a must pull. I think it's 50 to 75 is an option. And then 0 to 50 is just let them go. So when you get into that scale, and every time all the way down 95 from Virginia to Florida, pull in, bring in your logs, there's a reason there. They're not just doing it because they dislike you. They're doing it because they dislike the DOT number on the side of the truck. Your behavior historically affects that ISS number. So the more violations you historically have, the higher that number gets.
How can I check my ISS score?
You can log into FMCSA. It's not public data, but we pay for it. So even though it's not public, people can buy it, just like with your cab report for insurance. If you see something erroneous in there that's not yours, you get the violation or your driver doesn't tell you about it, you can data queue these violations. The thing with compliance is it's like the necessary evil, right? Like I'm not in love with it, even though I do it. But at the end of the day, it's what keeps you in business. If you want to run successful and you want to continue running every year with the lowest premiums possible or running at all, that's what's important.
Talk about the data queue process. Basically, from my understanding, it's you get a violation that's not actually yours. Like you can see, or you can talk with your driver, that wasn't me, that didn't happen. Or no, actually the officer misunderstood, that's not true, and I have the evidence to back it up. What can you do?
I'll break it down in two different ways. One, you can have violations. You log in just like you would to look at your ISS. You find the violation that you want to argue, and then you submit your evidence, and you make that argument. Now, what's bad about data queue is there's no due processing. So I say this, it's not like you're going in front of some objective judge that knows nothing about it. The very first person to review this is the guy who wrote you the violation to begin with. Seems just, right? The second part of the data queue program is crash. Was this crash preventable? It shouldn't be on my record. It wasn't my fault. Somebody committed suicide by jumping into the front of my truck. Those you can go in and file basically a crash preventability determination and say, here's all the evidence. Here's the camera of this guy jumping in front of me. It wasn't my fault. Nothing I could do to prevent it. And in those cases, they'll rule on those just like they would any other data queue. But in this case, it's to have crashes removed from your crash register, which helps your crash basic. But ultimately, it really helps your insurance premiums at the end of the year because the fewer crashes that are on that record obviously help you. So that's the program in a nutshell. But they were implementing an appeals board. They talked about this maybe 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we still don't have an appeals board. We don't know anything about this appeals board. We just know that there's going to be one. Supposedly, it's not there yet. So the good thing about the crash preventability program is you were restricted to so few crashes that you could argue. Now they've expanded that a lot. So it's gotten a lot easier to file preventability challenges in data queue. So that's essentially how that works. But really your goal is to try to get some of these violations and crashes removed to lower your threshold to make you look better.
Rob, it was awesome talking to you. Thank you so much for making the time to come on This Week in Trucking. Lots of really cool insights. Is there anything else that you want to share?
I don't think so.
If you liked this video and you like listening to conversations like this and learning stuff about the trucking industry, make sure you subscribe to This Week in Trucking and give us a like. Also, if you have questions for Rob about trucking compliance or, I don't know, anything else, like where he got his hat, go ahead and put that in the comments and we will send those questions to him, get you answers. So thanks so much for joining us, and drive safe, everybody.